Chapter 226, Wait until the arrow is at the end of its flight. Not long after, Tang Ru carried her cup over and passed by Yi Shu, who had his two legs crossed and a cigarette in his mouth, a very relaxed look. When she returned to her seat, she put on her headphones and heard Yi Shu discussing with Steamed Bun Invasion how awesome it'd be to fight with someone outside of Line Canyon and then push the opponent to his death. Yeah, I've done it before. It's probably been 10 years since then. 10 years ago? Senior, you're not exaggerating, are you? Steamed Bun Invasion interrupted. It's true. It's definitely been 10 years. It's a story that took place in the first server, Yi Shu said. Oh, please tell it. Steamed Bun Invasion wouldn't interrupt him. Tang Ru didn't interject either and listened to Yi Shu tell of the battle at Line Canyon that happened 10 years ago. At that time, Glory hadn't been open for very long, so a large amount of players had just recently entered a new world. Everyone was fighting over bosses, fighting over equipment, fighting over materials. Yi Shu and his friend had joined in on the mess as well. It's a game, right? So the sword flies here and the sword flies there. The sword flies wherever, it's a battle, Yi Shu said casually. We were only two, but our opponents were an entire guild, who were chasing us because we stole the drops from a boss. Even though we were good enough to wipe them out, there was no way our mana would last. So at that time, we fought while running, but those guys refused to give up and we eventually ran to here. At this point, a bright idea suddenly popped up in our heads and we began to use all sorts of ways to push those guys off the cliff. A falling flower palm would blow away three, who would instantly die from the fall. It was so cheap. However, some classes wouldn't die from the fall. For example, gunners use aerial fire to avoid falling to their deaths, but it didn't matter because even if they didn't die, they wouldn't be able to jump back up. Their only choice was to circle around. Yi Shu explained. Then were you two able to push all of them off? Steamed Bun Invasion asked excitedly. How many did you push off? I hadn't counted, but we were able to push off nearly everyone in the guild. The remaining ones saw that they weren't able to run, so they jumped off by themselves. No way, Steamed Bun Invasion didn't believe him. Yeah, actually, since the game hadn't been open for long, there weren't that many players in a guild, Yi Shu said. How many? Steamed Bun Invasion asked. 20, Yi Shu recalled. TCH, Steamed Bun Invasion disdained. The story had sounded so incredible, but it had just been a small battle against 20 players. Ha, Yi Shu could only laugh. He couldn't forget their main mission, so he peeked out. Tyrannical Ambitions players were really careful. They were worried they would be discovered, so they continued to bring the boss farther into the depths of the dead end. We just have to close in slowly, Yi Shu said. Under Yi Shu's lead, they would switch hiding places from time to time, never exposing themselves. On the world chat, quite a few players were now questioning what Lord Grimm had said. Yi Shu didn't care. However, the players guarding Line Canyon's entrances all thought that Lord Grimm would take the chance to escape. They had been waiting for about an hour, but there was still no sign of him. Lord Grimm's evil schemes have been seen through. He doesn't dare come, everyone confidently concluded as if they had won a battle. On Lord Grimm's side, it was finally time. Okay, it's about time now, Yi Shu said to the team. The three were hiding behind a small dirt mound. Lord Grimm was peeking his head out more and more. The battle was already extremely intense. The Cliff Ronin Alpine was now at red blood and released a mighty aura. Tyrannical Ambition responded in the same way. Seeing their characters' movements, Yi Shu was able to see that Crowd Lover was the leader. Their teamwork is very good. They really do have enough strength to take down the boss, Yi Shu commented. When are we going to go? Tang Ru asked again and again. Don't be impatient. We'll wait until the arrow is at the end of its flight, then we'll take them down in one move. Remember, first kill the players, then the boss. We'll set the targets now. I'll give them numbers. That Elementalist Crowd Lover is number 1, Blade Master number 2, Sharpshooter number 3, Striker number 4, Cleric number 5, Berserker number 6, don't forget, Yi Shu messaged. Got it. Okay, wait for my orders. Yi Shu continued to spectate the battle. Raging flames. Outside of the mound, Zhang Yu's crowd lover waved his hands and cast a spell. A column of fire burst from the ground, enveloped the Cliff Ronin Alpine, but the Cliff Ronin was currently in an enraged state, so raging flames wouldn't launch him into the air. The Cliff Ronin slashed in a large 270-degree arc, but it was just a sword draw and nothing more. In his hands, such a normal skill became something incredible. Zhang Yu and the others had expected it. 3 of the players were behind the boss, inside the 90 degrees where the circular arc wouldn't reach. Crowd lover and the sharpshooter were both outside of the range. Up front, the blade master stood directly in front and used a precise guard to block the sword draw. Guard only blocked a portion of the damage. Even when guarded against, the boss's skill still did a large chunk of damage. However, the cleric was already ready and healed him. The blade master hit back with his own sword draw, slashing out a streak of blood across the Cliff Ronin's body. The Cliff Ronin roared angrily. He stabbed his sword into the ground, the berserker skill, earth-shattering slash, activated. This move caused dozens of shattered rocks in the surroundings shoot up. A player's earth-shattering slash wouldn't have such an effect. It was clearly a buffed skill due to the boss's enraged state. Look at this skill, Yi Shu immediately called for Tang Ru and Steamed Bun Invasion's attention. This skill is extremely difficult to interrupt. The scattered rocks are also random, so they're difficult to defend against. But, right before the rocks shoot up, the ground will stick up for a short instant. If you pay careful attention to it, you'll be able to see it. If you react fast enough, you can even dodge them. Look, that striker over there dodged them well. The skill took a heavy toll on Tyrannical Ambition's team. They also knew how to dodge them, but they weren't able to guarantee that they could perform such difficult actions precisely when needed. Among the 6 players, 4 were in range and 3 were hit by the rocks. Only that striker had been able to avoid the rocks. Tyrannical Ambition's players didn't panic though. The 2 long-range classes continued to attack, while the cleric hurriedly healed the blade master. The striker immediately used a dashing jab to close in and followed up with a grappler's back throw to interrupt the Cliff Ronin's attack to give everyone some time to recover. From this bout, it could be seen that the berserker, the player who had discovered the boss, wasn't at the same level as the other 5 players. His playing wasn't with the team. The blade master leapt up into the air to avoid the boss's shockwave from getting up and then followed with a falling light blade. The Cliff Ronin Alpine was hit, but knockback wouldn't affect an enraged boss. The Cliff Ronin countered with a slash, which the blade master guarded and returned with a sword draw again. Zhang Yu grew excited. They had been fighting for so long and the boss was finally about to be taken down. A wild boss. The strongest of the bosses. The drops were also of the greatest value. Even these experts from the heavenly domain were excited. Almost there. Again, Zhang Yu shouted. The others could also see that victory was almost theirs. Their morale was at a peak and once again went for another round of attacks. When the Cliff Ronin Alpine countered, the blade master was ready to guard again. But just at that moment, 3 shadows suddenly jumped out from behind a small dirt mound. Soft Mist number 2, Steamed Bun number 5. Chapter 227, The Greatest DPS, Lord Grimm. This shout held feelings of anger and uneasiness. Lord Grimm actually appeared now of all times. Seeing their IDs, Zhang Yu instantly understood what they were trying to do, though he didn't know the details. Zhang Yu set his eyes on Soft Mist and Steamed Bun Invasion and took full precautions, but Lord Grimm was the first to act. His myriad manifestation umbrella flipped to show the tip, exposing a black muzzle. Bang bang bang, T3 anti-tank missiles shot out, but these 3 missiles didn't hit anyone and instead exploded on Cliff Ronin Alpine, immediately making him a part of the battle. Right after the explosion, Steamed Bun Invasion threw a brick, which flew like an immortal from the skies, towards the cleric's head. The dizzy didn't take effect, but he was able to interrupt the cleric's casting. This was an action Yi Shu had predicted the cleric would do, which was why he told Steamed Bun Invasion to attack him. The cleric had seen the 3 unwanted guests appear, but his hands still instinctively tried to heal the guarding blade master. In the strategy they had been using for the past hour, whenever the blade master guarded, he would immediately recover his health. From how the process played out, it appeared as if Steamed Bun Invasion had thrown the brick first and then the cleric tried to heal in order to interrupt it. Tang Ru's battle mage didn't have any long-range skills or any chasers on her. Her target was Blade Master number 2, who was some distance away from her, but Tang Ru wasn't inflexible. She brushed past the Cliff Ronin and used a falling flower palm on the boss. In its red blood state, the Cliff Ronin was extremely resistant. The falling flower palm's blow-away effect was also reduced and only made the Cliff Ronin stagger a bit. Tang Ru's goal of having the boss fly into her target hadn't been achieved yet, but at least she was able to produce a fire chaser. Tang Ru didn't hesitate and immediately fired her chaser. The fire chaser exploded on the Cliff Ronin and Soft Mist's arms began to glow red. The fire chaser had buffed her strength. Tang Ru hadn't forgotten about her target and continued to rush towards the Blade Master. Seeing Soft Mist pounce over, the Blade Master appeared extremely cold. With the blade in the sheath, he quickly drew his sword. This attack headed towards both targets in order to block Soft Mist's charge as well as to add damage to the boss. Swoosh! The Blade Master suddenly saw a giant umbrella shield open up, blocking the swordlight. The player with the shield was knocked back, but at this moment, the umbrella retracted and a swordlight flashed, sending a sword draw back at him. This slash was the same as the Blade Master's, one attack with 2 targets. The sword draw headed towards the Blade Master as well as the striker, who was not far from the Blade Master. With the Blade Master and striker's positions, the sword draw shouldn't have been long enough to reach both, but Yi Shu had utilized the knockback effect to use sword draw while moving backwards, causing the angle to change, allowing the sword aura to reach the striker. Tyrannical Ambitions experts hadn't anticipated this type of precise movement. The striker was hit by the sword aura and he slid back. The Blade Master immediately raised his guard and blocked the attack. Just as he felt pleased, a scarlet flash swept past his eyes and his character flew into the sky. Soft Mist had used this opportunity to execute a sky strike. Lord Grimm followed up and jumped back. His myriad manifestation umbrella swung down, turning into the gun form. Gatling gun was employed and the bullets flew like rain. The brief stun from each hit made it so the opponent wasn't able to close in. While the bullets rained, Steamed Bun Invasion dashed towards his target number 5. This cleric had once been bullied by Steamed Bun Invasion already. Seeing him run over, he immediately turned around and ran. Steamed Bun Invasion didn't give up. No one else mattered, only the cleric. This was the task Yi Shu had assigned him. Tang Ru chased after the mid-air Blade Master and began a barrage of attacks. The Blade Master had no way of escaping as his health dropped rapidly. The cleric was supposed to heal him, but all he saw was the cleric running from Steamed Bun Invasion like a dog. The Blade Master didn't dare to be careless and immediately drank a potion. In this instant, his health shot up. This was an extremely precious potion that recovered his health in an instant. This type of potion was purple lettered. Zhang Yu and his party had brought the best quality potions with them to hunt this wild boss. Normal potions healed over 10 seconds with a 1-minute cooldown. As for the instant heal potion, the cooldown increased to 2.5 minutes, but both potions shared the same amount healed. After consuming the instant health potion, he wouldn't be able to drink another potion for 2.5 minutes. Relying on the potion, the Blade Master survived. After rolling onto the ground, he raised his hands and used an upward slash. "Don't dodge it," Yi Shu shouted as the Blade Master used upward slash. Tang Ru had planned on jumping back to dodge it, but was startled by Yi Shu's shout. By the time she recovered, there wasn't enough time to dodge. The Blade Master's sword hit and Soft Mist was launched into the air. "Were you talking to me?" Tang Ru was still confused. Being caught in midair wasn't a good situation. The Blade Master chased after her to follow up, but a sudden sword aura brushed past him. The Blade Master wasn't able to guard or dodge in time and was hit by the sword aura, causing him to fly back. As for Soft Mist, because she had been launched into the air, she was able to dodge the sword aura. A shadow brushed past Soft Mist in midair. An extremely quick sword penetrated through and stabbed the Blade Master. That shadow never stopped moving and continued to slaughter his way through. The still alive Blade Master was nailed against the mountain. Berserker skill, colliding stab. With an abnormally large range, the Cliff Ronin Alpine had used this skill. After eating 2 consecutive boss skills, the Blade Master's health instantly dropped, his death was near. Yishu's Lord Grimm mercilessly added damage. Anti-tank missiles fired towards the nailed Blade Master while grinning towards Tangru. I was talking to you. There's no need to work so hard. The person with the greatest DPS is over there. 3 anti-tank missiles exploded, cleaning out the Blade Master's little remaining health, and his corpse smoothly slid down the cliff wall. Soft mist dropped down from the sky and stood up with a quick recover, startled by the already dead Blade Master. The cleric was still running from steam bun invasion. Zhang Yu and the others had been suppressed by Lord Grimm and had only just gotten up, but in that short instant, their Blade Master unexpectedly died. The Blade Master's ghost stayed with his cheeks streaming with tears. Lord Grimm had actually borrowed the boss to kill him. How much more shameless can you be? The answer was already known. After the Blade Master was nailed to the wall, the Cliff Ronin turned around and headed towards the Tyrannical Ambitions players. Chapter 228, Forming a Party with the Boss. Seeing the Cliff Ronin Alpine turn around and charge towards them, Zhang Yu's party immediately froze. What, stealing the boss? This was clearly using the boss as a helper. Lord Grimm's group was absolutely last on the boss's aggro list. As long as they didn't run into the Cliff Ronin's blade and dodge some of the boss's AoE attacks, they wouldn't be in too much danger. On the other hand, Zhang Yu's group was Cliff Ronin's main targets. The red blood status Cliff Ronin was extremely terrifying. Under normal circumstances, he would be able to clean up 3 players with ease. However, Lord Grimm's strength wasn't normal. Zhang Yu didn't doubt that they were going to first clean them up and then kill the low health boss. K's? Run around? Retreat? Numerous thoughts circled through Zhang Yu's head. He didn't have time to think too carefully. The Ronin sword aura was flying towards them. The Cliff Ronin Alpine was swinging his sword with both hands from the ground up. This was the Spellblade skill Earthquake Sword. In the boss's hands, the shockwave and attack was increased significantly. A crack in the ground would climb up from whichever direction the sword pointed to, and as if an earthquake were happening, chunks of earth flew towards Crowd Lover. After the Blade Master died, Crowd Lover was next on the Cliff Ronin's target list. He was only wearing cloth armor. It was highly possible that he could die from even a single hit. Zhang Yu hastily acted. Crowd Lover ran and rolled. Just as he was about to exit the sword aura's range, a silhouette suddenly fell in front of him. Blocked, the two were hit by the earthen storm. Zhang Yu didn't know if that player was dead or alive. All he knew was that his health almost dropped to 0. He didn't yet have time to drink his potion when Lord Grimm appeared in front of him. Not waiting for him to get up, Lord Grimm fired several times and sent Crowd Lover back to the city. F***CK, Zhang Yu slammed the table. His foot kicked a nearby chair. As the manager of the guild for the club, Zhang Yu had his own specialized studio for him. Beside him were several other guild members. In the quiet of the night, these tyrannical ambition workers looked in alarm at their boss. Zhang Yu glared at the screen. He had tried to drink a potion, but Lord Grimm was quicker and he was killed off. His attempt to drink a potion became, click accept to revive, and he was already back in the city. He stood there angrily for 2 seconds and then sprinted over to another person in the room. During his extreme fit of rage, only one person didn't look up from his computer to see what was going on. This was Zhang Yu's teammate, the striker, who had been fighting beside him in Line Canyon. As for the other teammates, they weren't in the same city. Sweat could be seen on the striker's forehead. His heart was racing even faster. At this moment, he was under attack from Lord Grimm, Soft Mist, and Cliff Ronin Alpine, a very difficult situation. Zhang Yu glanced at the party list on the side of the screen. Of the originally 6 members, there were only 3 left. The player, who had crashed into his Crowd Lover, was that berserker who had found the boss. From the looks of it, his name was already faded, which meant that he had died. Left roll, right step, leap up, sprint to flee. The striker's 2 hands furiously tapped the keyboard and mouse. The concentrated raps showed his current complex playing. But no matter how he tried to dodge, his health continued to slowly be chipped away. He hadn't been able to escape. Lord Grimm's figure suddenly appeared in front of him. He had used a shadow clone technique to block his path and then used a falling flower palm. The striker had no choice but to leap back, when he heard the sound of a sword being unsheathed. The Cliff Ronin's fiery sword aura finally found its mark on the striker's body. Cursing, the striker watched as his corpse fell to the ground. He also slammed the table and jumped up from his chair, swearing continuously, F***CK. Coordinating with the boss? What's wrong with him? Everyone else in the room buried their heads. They were too scared to look or even ask. They knew what these two heavenly domain experts had come to the 10th server for, but it looked like the new server proved to be an extremely difficult task as even the top experts of their guild were crumbling. They were tyrannical ambition. The fierce finger-pointing, and scolding style of Tyranny's team captain Han Wenking was often imitated by managers in the guild, except they didn't learn it correctly. Han Wenking only scolded them when the other side made a mistake, but these people only seemed to have learned the angry part. If they were in a bad mood or unhappy, they would find some reason to vent their anger. The people in the room didn't want to be the ones to be vented out on. Zhang Yu and the striker looked at each other. They couldn't scold each other, no? In the end, their gazes fell onto the screen. At this moment, the striker's ghost camera watched as Lord Grimm's group and the Cliff Ronin Alpine pounced towards the remaining two survivors. Shameless. How could anyone be so shameless? Right, too shameless. Zhang Yu and the striker pointed at the screen and furiously cursed, but the battle quickly reached outside of the ghost's view and they were no longer able to see anything. The Cliff Ronin dealt matchless damage like this along with the help of Lord Grimm's matchless shamelessness. At this point, what was the point in watching any longer? Even if they asked the entire guild to come over, it'd be too late. Thinking of this, Zhang Yu immediately dashed back to his computer. The chat box on his screen flashed and flashed. He clicked on it and saw that it was Cold Knight. Clearly, he had already found out a little bit about the situation from the Dead Blade Master and was now asking Zhang Yu for what to do next. The boss will probably be stolen away by Lord Grimm. Hurry up and gather people to stop that bastard. There's only 3 of them and the boss doesn't have much health left, but it'll still take them some time, Zhang Yu hastily replied. Got it. Cold Knight didn't say too much. He immediately told everyone that they had found Lord Grimm's position. The troops promptly moved out. At this moment, Zhang Yu received another message. It was from the sharpshooter in his team. Clearly, no miracle had occurred. F***CK. These B***stards are too evil. So shameless. The cleric had also died. They were definitely watching us from the very beginning. That B***TCH probably announced those fake coordinates on purpose. The teammates continued to talk, cursing Lord Grimm's name numerous times. How much health did the boss have in the end? Zhang Yu asked the other two. I wasn't paying attention. The only thing I was paying attention to was how much health I had left, the two replied bitterly.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 229, Audio Source, WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 229 In the Blink of an Eye. Jiang Yu's team was once again obliterated. They had no way of knowing what the situation was ahead of them and could only wait for Cold Knight's report. Cold Knight had already sent everyone Lord Grimm's whereabouts. He also leaked the truth. Lord Grimm and the boss were together. Hearing this, everyone went into an uproar. Excellent Dynasty's guild leader Chen Yehui was met with at least 50 shouts filled with anger. Chen Yehui was also very gloomy. He had sent players to check who had verified that there wasn't any boss, which meant that he had been played as a fool by Lord Grimm, just like everyone else was. The hundreds of players sitting at Line Canyon for hours and hours began storming their way over. After Chen Yehui heard Cold Knight's report of Lord Grimm's whereabouts, he checked the map. That FCKER. Yichu was too shameless. The coordinates he had given and the actual coordinates were several hundred coordinates off. Why? Did he intentionally lure everyone away in order to fight the boss himself? Chen Yehui pondered as their troops hurried over. The guilds all kept their distance away from each other. The boss, Lord Grim, didn't need to be stolen, but the wild boss Cliff Ronan was different. Glory, equipment, materials, no one wanted to share these things with other guilds. Thinking about the rain of blood that poured with every wild boss, the guilds prepared themselves. Cold Knight was relatively calm. He understood the situation and reckoned that they probably wouldn't be able to reach the Cliff Ronan Alpine in time. Lord Grim was too smart. He might have already calculated the time need for his team to kill the boss and the time need for Cold Knight and the others to arrive. Thinking of this, Cold Knight looked for the other guilds in order to ask for the players guarding the leveling area and dungeons to scatter and head towards that area. They didn't need to bluff Lord Grim, they just need to find his whereabouts. After saying this, everyone else was suspicious. "Aren't you people supposed to be over there?" Cold Knight calmly replied. "We had just found them and they're all dead now, which was why I warned everyone not to let Lord Grim escape." Lord Grim probably expected this to happen, so he already knows where we are. Unless he's willing to abandon the boss, there's no way he'd be able to run too quickly with the boss attacking him. Quote, one player said, "We should still take precautions. Let's take a look at the map." Quote, another said, "As a result, the leaders studied the map as they ran. They figured out how to divide everyone and what routes to go along." On Yishu's side, after killing off tyrannical ambitions players, they turned towards the boss as their target. The Cliff Ronan Alpine hissed and roared. He unleashed an earth-shattering slash, spraying stones and gravel everywhere. Yishu was the quickest to dodge the attack. Seeing the Cliff Ronan begin his attack animation, he immediately used a shadow clone technique. His fake body was left behind, while his real body moved outside of the attack's range. Tangro and Steamed Bun Invasion didn't have such a method of escaping. After hearing Yishu's "Careful," they stared forward at their screens. "It's here." Tangro saw a slight movement on her screen, but her reaction was a bit too slow and a rock crashed into her. The sudden drop in health made Tangro feel pained for her soft missed. On Steamed Bun Invasion's side, his extreme luck exploded. Not a single rock headed towards where he was standing. "Ha ha ha. I bet you didn't know that luck is a type of skill too." Steamed Bun Invasion said gleefully to Tangro. "I have to say that what you just said is very logical, Steamed Bun." Yishu's Lord Grim rushed forward and was also the boss's target. The Cliff Ronan only had so many skills. Before their ambush, Yishu had explained this to the others. When they saw the boss wave his sword, Tangro and Steamed Bun Invasion went behind the Cliff Ronan to his dead angle. After the two went behind the boss, Yishu continued to rush forward. At this moment, Lord Grim leaped up at the perfect time and looked like he stepped on the Ronan's katana. "Hey, are you two watching a play?" Yishu saw that Soft Mist and Steamed Bun Invasion were both looking up in awe at him and weren't using the time to attack. The two heard and went back to reality. Soft Mist used a Sky Strike and Steamed Bun Invasion attacked with a brick. Under the enraged state, the Cliff Ronan was as steady as a rock. The Sky Strike wouldn't launch him into the air and the brick wouldn't cause him to go dizzy. Lord Grim leapt over the boss and used the Striker Eagle Stamp, stepping on the boss's head 3 times. Yishu had to hurry up and attack. At this moment, the difference in aggro levels between the three of them wasn't large. If Lord Grim did a bit less damage, it was very likely that the two would pull the aggro away. The Cliff Ronan obviously wouldn't just stand there and let them attack him. He immediately swung his sword and this time, used the Berserker skill, Backward Slash. This attack had a large range. From in front of him to the top of his head to behind him. Not only was he attacking Lord Grimm, but he was also attacking Soft Mist and Steamed Bun Invasion, who were behind him. After seeing the katana swish towards him, Lord Grimm suddenly pointed with his sword and used a falling light blade in order to fall faster. The sword crashed down, swiping past the boss, who didn't budge in the slightest. However, this attack allowed Lord Grimm to dodge the attack. Soft Mist and Steamed Bun Invasion had already jumped away before the slash hit. Lord Grimm's Thousand Chance umbrella switched to the Tomba form and used the grappler fling. The Cliff Ronin Alpine couldn't block this type of grab and was flung onto the ground. Even though it was a priority grab, the Cliff Ronin Alpine still had a strong body and was only flung half the usual distance and height. WooshOurWorldAudio.com. It was called a fling, but in reality, it looked more like he tripped. Receive. Yishu shouted. Soft Mist and Steamed Bun Invasion concentrated and rushed forward together. Steamed Bun Invasion used a strangle and accurately hit the Cliff Ronin's throat. The effect was extremely brief, but Yishu and Tangro was able to use this opportunity. The two of them looked as if they were doing the same movement. Their right hands held their lances behind them and their left hands flew out. Bang! The two noises together sounded like one. Just before the Cliff Ronin landed on the ground, they both used a falling flower palm to forcefully blow him away. Soft Mist quickly followed with a fire chaser. Lord Grimm's battle lance retracted and the tip of his Thousand Chance umbrella turned into a black muzzle. Anti-tank missiles followed closely after the fire chaser and exploded on the boss. As for Steamed Bun Invasion, he used a sand toss after letting go of strangle. The Cliff Ronin fell to the ground. They leapt back to avoid the shockwaves as he got up. Lord Grimm drew his sword and a purple-like mist seeped out from his sword, quickly forming a sword soul. Inside the sword boundary, their strength was increased. After the Cliff Ronin rose, his eyes flashed and charged at Lord Grimm with his sword raised. This colliding stab was both fierce and quick. In the blink of an eye, he had reached Lord Grimm. In an instant, the Cliff Ronin seemed to have passed through Lord Grimm. The Cliff Ronin still had his katana facing forward, but his sword hadn't hit anything. A streak of blood flew out from behind his neck. Steamed Bun Invasion and Tangro tried to think back on what happened in that instant, but weren't able to remember any details. All they knew was that in that instant, Lord Grimm had sidestepped and the Cliff Ronin had brushed past him. The blood that flew out made Steamed Bun Invasion think of a certain skill. Cutthroat. Steamed Bun Invasion yelled absent-mindedly. This skill could only be used behind the target's back. Previously, when the Cliff Ronin and Lord Grimm clashed, it was so brief that they hadn't understood what exactly had happened. In that short instant, Yishu was able to turn around and use a cutthroat. Even though they had been with him every day, Tangro and Steamed Bun Invasion couldn't help but be shocked. Dumbstruck again. Lord Grimm had already drawn his sword and used the collapsing mountain to follow up. The Cliff Ronin's colliding stab hadn't hit, so he stopped, while still inside the sword boundary. The Cliff Ronin was only able to turn around halfway when he was hit by the collapsing mountain. Steamed Bun Invasion came in from the left and smacked him with a brick, while Tangro came in from the right and stabbed twice with the double stab. The Cliff Ronin let out one final cry, before the light in his eyes faded. End chapter.
Chapter 230, a bit early today. System announcement, players Lord Grimm, Soft Mist, and Steamed Bun Invasion have defeated Cliff Ronin Alpine. Even though it wasn't a first kill, a wild boss kill was still very big news. Among the clamors of surprise in the world chat, some players congratulated them. Far away in Kanji City, Zhang Yu saw the system announcement and these messages on the world chat. He really had the urge to cough up blood. Of course, the players who had been searching for the boss the past hour were very unhappy with Lord Grimm. At that moment, Lord Grimm's reputation became quite unpleasant. After this system announcement, the number of players who questioned this also became much smaller. Zhang Yu knew the facts, but he couldn't tell them. The boss had been forcefully snatched away and their hour of hard work had been stolen. We have to kill Lord Grimm. Zhang Yu slammed his keyboard and messaged Cold Knight. Cold Knight hadn't personally experienced being killed, and even though he was disappointed, his feelings were far from Zhang Yu's level of resentment. With the news of the boss, there was no longer any chance for them to stealing the boss, so the 7 guilds quickly gathered together. What about Cleansing Mist and that 1-inch ash? Dead? Offline? Quote. But as long as Lord Grimm was still there, they wouldn't give up. The guilds were now maneuvering all of their troops towards that location. They had to close in on Lord Grimm's whereabouts. They were closing in from every direction and had blockaded every single route. This time, unless Lord Grimm could fly out of Line Canyon, then F***CK, Cold Knight suddenly cursed. What? Everyone else immediately asked. Lord Grimm's logged out. Cold Knight was gloomy. He had opened his friends list and saw that Lord Grimm's name had turned gray. He quickly used a search and sure enough, Soft Mist and Steamed Bun Invasion had all logged out as well. F***CK. The players from the 7 guilds had worked bitterly the entire night, and their result? All they did was run around the world looking for Lord Grimm's tracks. And Lord Grimm's group? They had wiped out a 32-player team. They had run a dungeon twice. They had killed elite teams. They had killed a wild boss. Everyone was scratching the walls, and Tyrannical Ambitions players were beating their heads against the wall, while coughing up blood. The 32-player team wipeout had their players. 2 of their elite teams had died. And there was even information that others didn't know. The Cliff Ronin Alpine had been stolen from them and their elite team had even died again. It could be said that Tyrannical Ambitions elite teams had suffered a loss 3 times. But now, the other side wasn't even online. What were they supposed to say? Someone suggested that they guard the place where Lord Grimm had logged off 24/7, but who knew where Lord Grimm's group had logged off it? They had blocked off all the roads and surrounded Lord Grimm's previous whereabout, but they still didn't know when exactly they had gone offline. Lord Grimm could have gone somewhere else to log off when the guilds were still getting in position to surround him. And the area they were surrounding was huge. They didn't have enough manpower to stand guard 24/7. The crowd of players from the 7 big guilds stood there stupidly like rocks. Back at Happy Internet Cafe, Tang Ru left her computer and saw Yi Shu smoking at the front desk. He looked like he was in quite a good mood. Of course, Yi Shu would be in a good mood. After killing the Cliff Ronin, an amber crystal had dropped, which was something he needed. Every year, only a few were found, and for them, after only 1 try, it had actually dropped. Just this was enough to make Yi Shu satisfied. Apart from this, Cliff Ronin Alpine had also dropped a purple weapon, 2 blue equipments, and 2 Breath of the Cliffs. The purple weapon was a level 30 twin-tailed swords, which was often used by assassins. No one in Yi Shu's group could use it, so the only thing they could do was sell it for gold. As for the 2 Breath of the Cliffs, these were used as uncommon materials for creating accessories. Their drop rate was much higher than amber crystals, but they only dropped from wild bosses, so there was only a limited amount of them too. Are the materials that dropped useful? Tang Ru asked. Yeah, the amber crystal is extremely useful. We can hold on to the breaths of the cliff for now. If we don't use them, we can always sell them for money or equipment, Yi Shu said. Okay. We got off pretty early today. It isn't even 6 yet, so you can go to sleep early. Yi Shu got up and stretched. Then you still have to stay till 7, Tang Ru patted the front desk. Yeah, I almost forgot. Yi Shu sat back down. I'll be off then. Okay. Tang Ru said goodbye and then went to the 2nd floor. When she got to the door, she saw light coming from the room. Guo Guo, you got up so early today. Tang Ru pushed open the door to enter, but when she looked inside, she saw the TV on. A TV channel was playing, making the room turn dark and light on and off. When she looked again, she saw that Chen Guo was sleeping on the sofa again. Tang Ru chuckled bitterly and patted Chen Guo. Guo Guo, get up and go to your bed to sleep. Huh? Is it morning already? Chen Guo heard Tang Ru's voice. She looked around and aside from the TV, everything else was dark. Chen Guo looked at the time drowsily. Why is it not even 6 yet? She had stopped playing abnormally early today. It would take a lot of time to explain, so Tang Ru didn't know what to say right now. You got off early today? Did you eat? Chen Guo asked. Not yet. Go eat some food and then go to sleep. I'll go see what's in the fridge. Chen Guo got up from the sofa. No need. You should hurry up and go back to your room to sleep, Tang Ru said. I'm hungry, Chen Guo said and went to the fridge anyways. She took out some food, milk, bread, and jam. Tang Ru also went to help. After making 2 jam sandwiches, they split it. Chen Guo ate, while asking, how was your day? Oh, it was fun, Tang Ru ate, while explaining to Chen Guo. Chen Guo listened quietly, laughing and gasping in surprise. Hurry up and level. I'll be waiting for you guys in the heavenly domain. I'll be going off to bed now, Chen Guo said after eating and listening, and then went to bed. Tang Ru was startled. She knew that Chen Guo had always wanted to play with her. Now that she was playing, it seemed like Chen Guo was growing ever more distant from her. In the past, Chen Guo had frequently pulled her along to watch the pro matches and talked about stories and glory, but she had also spent more time watching TV or doing something else with her every night. In recent days, however, the time they were spending together was becoming less and less. And how many nights was Chen Guo freezing on the sofa alone? Whenever Chen Guo was obsessed with the game, she never forgot to take care of me. But what about myself?